All right, folks. Morning to you. Monday, April 21st, day after Easter. Late start this morning. Had to take my son Grayson over to the doctor for a follow-up appointment for some ear stuff. But clean bill of health and just dropped him off here. I still have an unpublished episode, so I'm gonna get two up today. If things go according to plan this evening, y'all get to hear from me twice. Um, had some big developments happen in the last week over at Airbnb. They have got the Airbnb host community. Um, I'm not going to say up in arms just yet, but all of the people that I follow, who are kind of Airbnb experts, I'll call them, are kind of upset with some of these new terms of service that Airbnb has just issued. You know, Airbnb is publicly traded company now, so they've got to do um, whatever they can to protect investors and their business model. And so they've implemented some new terms of service targeted at large hosts. Sonder is probably the most recognizable name. They're also a publicly traded company. I think they've got 7,000 or more doors. Available within their portfolio. I don't know how many of those doors they actually own versus how many they lease and then arbitrage for short term rental. But in either case, they've got 7,000 listings or more under their umbrella, and so they've got um, their own platform that they use for managing guest experience, stays, access to properties, etc. And Airbnb has taken issue with hosts that concertedly try to move people off the platform. Um, so they're prohibiting things like requiring an application to gain access to the unit. You have to be able to give the guest a code. Not a problem for us. We use smart locks. I don't like, I've talked about how I don't like Bluetooth um, for smart locks due to battery life concerns. Um, so we're good there. One of the other things is they don't want you communicating off platform. So even if you get their phone number and email address, they want stay related communication to happen through the platform so that they can screen it. Um, Makes sense. I actually try to communicate through the Airbnb platform exclusively. Um, because when you have issues with a guest stay and you want Airbnb's resolution team to step in, they're going to look through the conversation history in the application to make a determination on what kind of communications you've had with the guest. So if you communicated to the guest that they're violating the house rules for some reason, and you did it outside the application, they're going to say, well, we don't see anything about that. So we've actually for Airbnb stays, we actually communicate through the Airbnb app almost exclusively. On occasion, we will reach out and send nudges. We've had issues with people who have notifications turned off on their Airbnb application. So when we send them a message, they don't get the push notification that we've sent something to them. And so on occasion, we've had to, send a text message or an email that says, "Hey, look, y'all need to be reading these messages that we send you." So, that's about the only communication that we have outside the Airbnb platform. But they're obviously trying to consolidate everything into there. They've got some AI stuff running in the background to make sure that hosts and guests um, don't violate the terms of service that we've all agreed to. Um, the What else are they trying to do? They're trying to, you know, they're doing all of this in an effort to ensure that guests who use the Airbnb platform continue to use the Airbnb platform. You know, the Airbnb ecosystem is totally reliant on guests. I've said it. I think I've said it before. I don't know that I've said it here specifically. But if they don't have happy guests, they don't have anything. Hosts turn over regularly. You sell a property, you buy a new property, whatever the case may be. There's always going to be some churn in hosts. So, in my opinion, Airbnb really doesn't do a whole lot to keep hosts happy, because they're much more reliant on happy guests. Because if you burn a guest, if Airbnb burns a bridge with a guest, they're never going to book through Airbnb again. They're just going to go to another platform and they're going to book direct. It might be Verbo, might be, Marriott Homes and Villas, Booking.com, whatever. Booking.com's kind of trying to I've seen increased marketing efforts from them in terms of, trying to make hosts more at ease about, using Booking.com for home rentals. So anyways, Airbnb's doing everything. In fact, all the OTAs are doing everything they can to keep happy guests because, you burn that bridge one time and that's going to be your last time with that guest. Um, So, my only gripe, and I might spend, the next episode tomorrow, kind of diving into more detail about why I'm having issues with Airbnb attacking us as a host for off-platforming. So the way I see it, if a guest books with me, it's because they liked a property that we had. We earned that booking, we earned that guest. Um, and if they have a good experience, um, we should have the right to market to them to try to win them again. Uh, as far as I can tell, there is no concerted efforts from Airbnb to get a guest to rebook on Airbnb at the property that guest has stayed at before. They don't care. They get I think it's about 14% is the average guest service fee. They can fluctuate a little bit depending on demand and a bunch of other factors, I believe. Um, but generally speaking, they want that 14%. They don't care what property it is that you book at. So they're going to give that guest um, marketing for the property that they think the guest is most likely to book based on whatever factors they decide are relevant. Doesn't matter what the guest thinks. And so, we have an issue with that. It's like, if we have won a guest and we've provided satisfactory guest service and they want to come back, we want to be top of mind when they come to book again in an area where, we have listings. Um, so that's my main gripe is, Airbnb doesn't really, they don't market on our behalf to our former guests, and they don't even give us tools either. So those are the kind of two primary gripes I have with this new effort, and I'll kind of dive in a little bit more about what all they're doing, what property um, solutions and software integrations are kind of at risk, and we'll kind of talk about that and what the future holds for us in Airbnb. So thanks for joining us in on this Monday here. We will give you some more details and some future updates. Hope you all have a good one. We will talk with you again soon. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to call me. 850-988-9741 is our main line, but it rings straight to me. Thanks. See y'all.